It's the EP Podcast. Evergreen Park.
And welcome into an episode of the EP Podcast that I think is going to be a very special episode as we're standing at the Evergreen Park Fire Department with Captain Ed Dunne, who's been on the show before. Captain, how are you?
Good, thank you.
Thank you for coming on. Look, we're going to have 4 different stations today, and this is your training classroom we're standing in along Kedzie Avenue. We're going to have 4 different demonstrations today, and 2 of these are classes that you're already conducting for the residents, for the school districts, and then 2 more are about to be added, and we're going to kind of go through them and show off what the Evergreen Park Fire Department is doing. First off, tell me a little bit of the background. Why do these classes start, and who have you already done the first 2 classes for?
It's like somebody said, it's for the residents. That's what we do it for, so that prepared for an emergency, they can help start initiating treatment before we get there. Always helps us out, save the patients. So these are for the residents to help them if they feel they can help in an emergency. So we give them the skills and experience to do that.
And how easy is it to sign up for these classes? Is this something that they're going on the village website? Is there something they're doing through the different school districts for the kids? Is this something that goes through you guys specifically where there's a way for them to do it? Like how does somebody, as they watch this video, they go, oh, I want to learn this. How do they get to you?
Initially, it's through the school district. They're going to send a newsletter out twice a year. It's in the spring and the fall. They register through the school district. What we're going to end up doing, plus that, we're going to have it on the village website. So with these 4 classes, they'll be able to register through the village also.
Okay, now this one I recognize. We've talked about this on the show before. I was a 911 dispatcher for 10 years for Cook County Sheriff's Police, and the last couple years of it was I not only a supervisor in their center, but we took on some fire dispatch. So I started to learn some of this stuff, and I had to do the CPR classes, and I will tell you right now, I think I could attach this device, which I know you're going to describe, and I think I could do CPR because I remember I'm supposed to pump to staying alive to keep the beat going. I know that, but some of this is going to be a refresher for me. So take me through this class like I've never done it before.
Okay, so we got the equipment that we have for our CPR class. It's a 4-hour class. For residents, there's no cost, and for non-residents, it's $65. You call the firehouse and register through the secretary, and we have dates set aside. The first 2 weeks is for the basic CPR class, the heart saver, and then the 3rd and 4th week is set up for the BLS, which is for the medical people. So this is the equipment, the mannequins that we use. This is the AED that we train you on, so you learn how to use the AED. You learn how to use the overdose. Part of the section in the CPR is overdose, so we have the Narcan and the EpiPens in case you need to use it, so we show you how to demonstrate that. And then the books we also give you also for the class and some different tools that we can use for ventilation. So it's a 4-hour class. We go through all of this, and by the end of the class, you will have your certification. It's a 2-year certification.
Now, the heart start machines, you see these all the times in different buildings or in public buildings. Sometimes they're in private buildings, so they decided they want to have this device there. This is for somebody who you can't get them going again, so you've tried CPR, you need to jump them. Essentially, this is like. I mean, you're going to put some leads on. You're going to give an electrical shock. Remind me on this one. I'm sure you demonstrated during the class without the shocking, but a lot of these have step-by-step instructions. This is more about staying calm when you open up the door and taking it step by step instead of rushing, even though it might be a very intense situation.
Correct. Yes, the CPR is buying the patient time till the machine gets there, the AED gets there, because the heart runs by electricity, so that we really need to get the AED there or the Paramedics defibrillator. So we need that electric there. So the sooner the AED can get there, the better chances the person has of surviving. So we show you how to use that. It's very self-explanatory. It talks you right through the steps. All you have to do is turn it on and just listen, and then just follow the steps as it goes through.
Yeah, you brought up something really important that I remember I learned. The idea is to first train people on where the hands go, the beat, and what they can do, but you will read stories where while they're waiting for very long periods of time, you can keep this person alive until the right equipment shows up and the right people show up. So imagine this. This was a tip I always got. Tell me if I'm wrong about this. It was dial 911, get it on speaker, or lay the phone down. Start the process of getting people there, and then you start your CPR, because now your hands are going to be in use the rest of the way. So start the call, and then the moment you've started the call and you've started telling people to come, get into the CPR. How easy is it for somebody to pick this up? Because you have two different mannequins here. This one here, I would have no problem breaking his ribs. I'd be very nervous with the baby. How is that trying to teach that to people?
It can be a little intimidating because some people, especially the older people, they're not strong enough to get the 2-inch depth that we need to get in for the compressions. So it can be intimidating. So I always tell them, even though you don't feel like you're doing a good compressions, you can be still part of the team. Go get the 911. Go get the AED. Show the paramedics where you're at. So there's other things you can do for the team if you're not strong enough to do the actual compression. So it's the compressions, the beating of the heart that's really that important that we really need to get down correctly.
Is there a way that you can, like maybe we show it on this guy right here? I mean, can I move him over real quick? And then what we'll do is just kind of show like where the hands go and the basics of it. I know people are going to they got to come to the class. You're not going to learn off this video, right, okay? But just an idea of what somebody would have to do, because maybe it's scary. Maybe I think people look at it and they go, it's scary. It is very simplistic when you actually see it for the first time.
Right, yes, it is. It's very labor intensive too. The reason why we call first 911 because we want people coming to help. Because as you're going to find out when you're practicing, you get tired really quick. So first thing you want to do is you put your hand placement. What I use is my ring finger at the bottom of the xiphoid process, 2 fingers, the palm of your other hand on top of that, and you want to be on top of the person so you got a good push, and you want to hear the clicking sound. That's 2 inches.
So that's not just a mannequin. There's going to be a click, but that's like the ribs and stuff. That's what's clicking.
Just to give you the idea of how hard you have to push. Most times when you're doing CPR, you think you're going deep enough. You're not. You even go deeper because you cannot go too deep. You can go too shallow. Okay, so you just put it, and you do 30 compressions, 100, 120 per minute. Like you go, as you said, "Staying Alive." It's a song that we
staying alive. That's the one thing I remember from when I learned how to do this. Right. And you did bring up an important point. I think it's important to go to a class like this and learn exactly how hard you have to do it, because every story I've ever heard from somebody who had to actually perform CPR was the idea that they knew that it was necessary to do, but they had to be forceful. And people watching it who don't know how to do it are like, oh my goodness, you're doing that way too hard. Yeah. But it's not like in the movies. They're really working when they're doing it. I think that's the positive of this program. Again, we're going to move on to all the other stations here in just a moment, but how do they, again, sign up for this?
They call the fire department, non-emergency number, and talk to the secretary. And depending on what class you want, the Heart Saver, again, is the first 2 weeks of the month. And then the BLS, which is the medical one, is the 3rd and 4th week of the month.
This episode of the EP Podcast and every episode brought to you proudly by OSF Healthcare, Little Company of Mary Medical Center. They are here for you. Your health, your happiness, your well-being are at the heart of everything they do. And you can count on OSF Healthcare to provide the care, comfort, and support you need, focused on you every step of the way. With access to technologically advanced healthcare solutions, OSF combines innovative treatments with compassionate care to help you achieve your best possible health. That's OSF Healthcare, Little Company of Mary Medical Center. As we move to our second station here, learning about all the programs that the Evergreen Park Fire Department is bringing to you. An opportunity for you to be a little bit safer and to be able to render first aid and safety and be able to be your own first responder before the first responders get there, which is going to increase your chances of a successful outcome. Quick reminder, if you're listening on the podcast feed, like through any podcast player, the EPPodcast.com, this is visual as well. So you can check it out on YouTube if you want to see any of the demonstrations that Captain Ed Dunne is showing me. You can see some of the equipment. It's very, very interesting. And as we stand in this classroom, the rain is pouring down. My sister told me the other day, and I think she's 100% right, we've gone from just having rain every once in a while to weather events all summer long. What's that been like for you guys here at EPFD?
Definitely we've been busy. Our call volume has gone up because a lot of the trees are coming down on houses, buildings losing their roofs. So it has increased our call volume.
Yeah, you guys can handle it though, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's nothing real serious. Thank God there hasn't been nothing really emergency, but it's just the inconvenience of having all these little stuff that happens in the village.
All right. Well, let's say that if you're caught in the storm and you get yourself injured, or if you just get injured on a regular Tuesday, which seems to be something that's more apt to happen to me as I'm pushing 50 now, Ed. You know what that's like. I mean, you get older, you hurt yourself more often.
Yeah, it takes a lot longer to get back up and heal. Yeah.
I bleed a little bit extra. It's not good. So here's the thing. This is a first aid class that you're also teaching. Take me through who gets this offered to them. I would assume it's the same way that they can kind of sign up for it. And then tell me what this class is all about.
So it is the same way. The School District 124 offers it in their newsletter. So you can register through the school district, and then also we're going to have it through our Stacy, who is our public information officer, so our village website. So you'll be able to register for that too. So it's a 2-hour class. We show you how to do different first aid techniques. Basically, it's a lot of PowerPoint that we go over because there's a few hands-on things that we can do with it, but it's basically more of a PowerPoint presentation on how to do different first aid techniques. Now, the thing I have to stress is that when you're doing bandaging and splinting, you're help preventing the injury from getting worse. But once the paramedics get there, they have to see what the injury is because they have to describe it to the doctor when they call the hospital. So they might undo everything that you just did. Don't feel like it's an attack against you. It's something that we need to visually see so that we can describe it to the doctor when we're not on phone with them.
I feel like this has happened before to the captain. I feel like you've shown up and somebody's like, but I did it right. Why are you ripping it apart?
Exactly. Yeah, so we really have to look at it, describe it, so that we can tell the doctors, so they can get ready at the hospital so when we come in, they're prepared to treat the person too. So don't be offended that all your good work that you did, it did help. It stopped the injury from getting worse, but the paramedics have to see what the injury looks like so they can describe it to the doctors at the hospital.
Do you feel like in this class that you spend a good amount of time debunking myths that people have either picked up through, I don't know, pop culture? I mean, I saw a video the other day where somebody was like, you get stung by a stingray, what do you do? And the entire classroom yells, you pee on them. And that's because they watched an episode of Friends, and that's not what you actually do. When you're teaching these first aid things, I would imagine you run into people that have a misconception about what their actual goal is in terms of treating themselves or the patient.
Yes, that is very true. Same thing like with nosebleeds. They always think to hold the nose back for the bleeding so the blood doesn't come out. Well, where's the blood going to go? Down your esophagus and into your stomach. What's your stomach going to do? It doesn't like blood. It's going to throw up. So you have to lean forward when you have a nosebleed, not lean backwards. So there are myths that we do have to correct when people bring them up.
Right, and every television show and movie shows the person put their head back. That's incredible. And then also, I would imagine this is the class where you probably heard at least a couple times, like, I know how to put a bandage on. So it's more than that. Tell me the kind of injuries that you think probably stick out the most as you would want this kind of training. And these are common things that can happen to somebody.
Yes, it is. Especially with bandaging, when you have a laceration on an arm or a leg, people want to start closest to the heart. You don't want to do that. You want to start away from the heart. Because when you start bandaging, the blood's going to stay there. It's going to get stuck. So you want to be able the blood to be able to flow through. So how you start your bandaging is very important to the injury so you don't make it worse.
I think that people probably take this class, go home, and say, I've been doing it wrong forever.
Absolutely.
I mean, I would imagine that's something that they run into. A 2-hour course, again, I would imagine free for residents, charge for non-residents?
Yes, correct.
Okay,
yes.
And you'll check that out on the village website. This demonstration and the one that you just did, those were the ones that were already going on. They've already been out there in circulation. Next, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be trying out something new, correct?
Yes, new and exciting classes. It's called Stop the Bleed, and also a fire extinguisher class. So we're excited about that.
Awesome. We're moving on to that next right here on the EP Podcast. Our first guest today on the EP Podcast, and actually our only guest because it's a very interesting segment over at Evergreen Park Fire Department, is brought to you by Evergreen Social Whiskey and Board Game Tavern, one of my favorite spots in the EP. If you're a bourbon drinker, man, they've got everything there, and it's at an amazing price. But I also brought the family in there just last week. I sent my middle guy, my 18-year-old Dominic, down to University of Louisville, and right before I drove him down there and moved him in for his first year of college, I said, let's go out and have one more meal together.
And I want to say there was a shrimp po' boy on the table. There were some shrimp and grits on the table. There were catfish bites. I tried everything. I've had some of that before. And then I got the brisket sando, and that's brisket. It's got red cabbage slaw, pickled jalapenos, and is just an incredible sandwich on like toasted bread. If you have not tried the food there, you are really missing out, from the cocktails to the bourbon selection to the menu to the board games to the special events they do and all the different clubs that they essentially have. People that are really into these very intricate games, not only playing them because they're experiencing them, but those that are trying to learn. There are ways for you to learn about some of the incredible games that they play over there. If you have not made it over to Evergreen Social, make sure you get over there the next time you and the family head out. 2855 West 95th Street here in Evergreen Park. See more at evergreenparksocial.com.
Back with Captain Ed Dunne here at Evergreen Park Fire Department. I love the idea that you have like a full classroom on site, you know? I mean, like, I think all offices should have them, but definitely fire departments and police departments, like a place where you bring everybody in. How often do you use this space to train your own firefighters on new techniques, or just refresh them? Because like I said, when we first started this thing, 10 years I did 911 dispatch. I got certified in CPR, and you're standing there and I'm going, I think I know some of this, I don't remember it all. So you got to keep refreshing things, right?
Correct. Yes, we do. Things do change, so we need to stay current as possibly we can. And plus, there's new equipment that we are always purchasing. So we come in here first, we go over all the book work, and then we go out and in the fields and we test it and we work with it so that we get used to it, so that when it comes time to use it at a call, we are able to use the new equipment. Again, CPR, we do it twice a month, so we use it at least twice a month with that. And now with these other two new classes that we're going to be starting, so it'll be a little bit more. So it gets used a lot.
Before we dive into the fire extinguisher class that you're going to be introducing, I did want to go back to the CPR thing. I mean, you have firefighters that you teach how to do this. And I'm sure that they practice, and I'm sure they think they're great at it. But do you remember any of the reactions of one that finally had to do it for real? Because I would imagine, I mean, like, it's great in practice, but the first time that you do it for real, you probably get a comment like, that was not exactly how I expected it to do, but thank goodness I had that and I had learned that.
The thing that I bring with the CPR class is the experience that I have with it. The body changes colors. When the heart's not beating and we're not breathing, it turns purples and blues. You don't expect that. You're expecting it to stay pink or white. Well, that doesn't happen. So that kind of shocks people. And also the cracking of the ribs. They hear that sound of the bones scraping each other. That's also something that it's not something you really get used to. So doing that, and how much labor intensive the compressions are. Again, you have to do 5 cycles, 30 each compressions. That's a lot of compressing. So how much work it is a lot. So we send 5 firefighters to all our cardiac arrests because of that reason, because we need the people to do good compressions so that we can do good CPR.
Right, and then you mentioned it, the cracking of the ribs, like how you explain, like, hey, I know that they're going to have their ribs heal after this is over, but at least they'll be alive to
Correct.
do it.
What's the alternative if you don't like the sound? Stopping? No, because now the person passes. So yeah, you have to just put that out of your mind and just do what you're trained to do.
Yeah. If it happens to me, you got to give me CPR, crack every rib, and save my life. All right, let's get to these fire extinguishers. I've never had one this big in my home before. I mean, I've had the little ones, but I have never had one this big in my home before. Are you first off like recommending that people have these ginormous ones, or is this just easier for you to demonstrate on?
It's just the simulator that we have. That's the size they came in. As you just said, they're a lot smaller than the normal in the stores and that. So it's much easier to carry and to use if it's a little smaller size like this. But this is because of the simulator that we have. That's what came with it.
What are the common misconceptions about a fire extinguisher? Because we talk about how CPR looks on television, right? Like everybody's makeup stays on, nobody turns blue, nobody's ribs are cracked. When they're done, sometimes the person that just got CPR falls in love with the lifeguard. I mean, we know that this is all bull, what we see on TV. What is the misconception that people have about these? Because I have seen in the movies somebody fire off one of these and it looks like there's a ton of foam that comes out. It immediately puts out the fire. They can spray it willy-nilly and it just everything goes out. I've also seen where they look completely different how they're used. What actually happens when somebody uses a fire extinguisher?
They use the foam for a reason, because it dissipates so quickly. When you have a chemical one, which these are, the chemical has a powder, so you have a longer lasting residue on it, so they don't like using the powder, they like using the foam because it dissipates a lot quicker. With these extinguishers, you don't have to use the whole container on each fire. For the use of an extinguisher, it has to be a small fire, small pan fire, small garbage can fire. Not a couch, not a chair, because it gets into the foam and it can spread. So extinguishers are only used when it is a small fire. Your back has to be to an exit, because if the fire gets bigger, you need to be able to escape. So you have to make sure your back is toward the exit. And when you use the extinguisher, you think of the word pass, P-A-S-S. That is to pull the pin, aim the nozzle.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah, aim the nozzle, squeeze the handle, and just put a coating of the chemical on it. You don't hit the flames, you hit what's burning. You want to put the chemical on top of whatever is burning. Once the blanket is on there, the fire goes away because then we took the oxygen away. That's the purpose of the extinguishers, take the oxygen away from the fire goes out.
So you just mentioned that when we're watching the movies, there's foam, and this has chemical inside of it. Are there different types of extinguishers, and if there are, do you recommend one over another one to people?
There used to be. Now they come out with this one is the ABC that covers all the extinguishers that we're going to use it for. There are some specialized ones for like kitchen fires because it has a more grease to it, so it has a different type of chemical in it. But basically, the store-bought ones are ABC, so you can cover regular burning materials like paper, grass, wood, electricity you can cover, and also grease, small grease fires.
Yeah, because I think to myself, if there's going to be a fire in my house, it's something with the wiring or it's something in the kitchen. Those are the ones that would cover that.
Yes, correct. Yeah, like I said, it'll have the ABC on there on the label, and then it covers most of the general fires that we'll have inside our residence.
Do you think that the plus for this class, in terms of teaching people the ease of use, will be beneficial? Because I think that, like, I've had fires in my house. I mean, I'll be honest. I one time watched a teenager who thought they knew how to light a gas stove do it wrong, and then there was a big burst, and then there was something on fire on top of the stove, right? And I didn't want to ruin the stove with the extinguisher, so I went through the method of throwing something on it and patting it down, and I could have made it a lot worse. I think people are afraid of the damage they do by using the extinguisher. What do you tell those people?
So, like, again, you don't have to use this whole container on the small fires. As soon as you put the blanket on, cover the fire goes out, you just sit and wait for a few minutes to make sure it doesn't reignite. If it doesn't reignite, you're all done. You're ready.
And then is it easy to clean up afterwards?
It's a little bit of a mess, yes, but it generally is easy to clean up. It's not that bad.
Now, after they use it, they still should call you, right?
Oh, absolutely, because you still have to make a report. So if there's any damage, and you try to claim on the insurance, well, where's the fire report? So yeah, you do have to call us still.
Right. And there's also the possibility, you think you put it out, fire could be sneaky. I saw backdraft. It just hides in the walls like a monster, and it just pops right out and gets Kirk Russell when he's not looking, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We can check for extension if there's anything else that's involved in the fire. So yeah, definitely, if you're going to use an extinguisher, I'd definitely be calling 911.
All right, so this I think you told me this is about an hour-long class. This is going to be added in. When does this start up?
September, October, we'll get it. So as soon as the newsletter comes out with the school district, we'll start advertising it on our website.
Good. Get it done before you start putting those real trees inside of your house, okay?
Correct, yes. Please, yes, exactly.
Is insurance just a monthly payment to you? If so, remember why it's really there to protect the life you love. Choose Samantha Ingalls with Country Insurance right here in Evergreen Park. She cares about the people of EP, and she's going to take the time to get to know you so Samantha can help protect you and your family. Choose a company that sees you as more than just a policy number. When you work with Samantha Ingalls and Country, you get more out of your insurance, more personalized home and car coverage to protect what matters most to you, more guidance with all the industry jargon, and more confidence that a real person will show up if something goes wrong. Call Samantha today, 773-937-2024, and get a quote. It is now time for your EP podcast, Word on the Street, brought to you by Spoken Vine Wine Bar and Bottle Shop, northeast corner of 95th and Kedzie. One of my favorite places for date night. And they have heard some really interesting conversations over the last couple of years with me and whoever I brought out there. And they still let me come back, which is really nice of them. They also have some incredible wine tasting events. A couple of them coming up here. Thursday, September the 3rd, meet the makers of Scott Bilbro of Marietta Cellars. And then there's a Sip Happens French Bubbles Friday happening actually before that. On Friday, August 21st, there's still room for a couple of those Sip Happens French Bubbles evenings. So check out everything they have going on. Check out the incredible menu. The lunch menu is great. The dinner menu is spectacular. There's shareables if you want to do it that way. Every wine seems to have a story, and there's always something new to try. See everything they have going on at SpokenVineWines.com. The big event this week may just be the Happy Bark Dog Park 10-year anniversary, which is going to be a Coffee Hour event this Saturday, August 22nd, from 10 a.m. until 12 p.m. Bring your pup for a fun-filled morning featuring treats, a dog fashion show, and plenty of fun opportunities to connect with fellow dog owners. The event is open to both members of the dog park and non-members of the dog park. You can check out the village website if you want to, evergreenpark-ill.com if you want more information. This may be a segment on next week's show. I mean, why have a podcast if I can't go out and play with puppies on a Saturday morning? I'm thinking you might get to see scenes from this next week, especially if you watch on the YouTube feed. Again, if you're listening to the show, I truly appreciate it. Everybody listens to the show. The listener numbers are bigger than the viewer numbers by far. But if you do want to see what Captain Ed Dunne is demonstrating, or if I go to the Coffee Hour next week, remember there's a YouTube channel and you can also watch on our Facebook page. The Stingrays will be here this Sunday, 6 p.m., Klein Park. This was a rescheduled concert from the 2026 Summer Concert Series. So pack your picnic basket or just go to the food trucks while you're out there. Bring your blankets, your lawn chairs, your family, your friends for some great entertainment. Remember, the Summer Concert Series then ends on Monday, September 7th. Labor Day concert and fireworks. Wild Daisy will be performing. That kicks off at 5:30. That's at Sexton Park. Klein Park for the Stingrays this Sunday. Sexton Park on Labor Day, September the 7th. Starting at 5:30. And Yoga in the Park returns this September to Evergreen Park beginning on September the 5th and running every Saturday in September at the Pergola at James J. Sexton Park at 91st in California from 9 until 10 in the morning. The September 5th class will be a restorative yoga class with a sound bath. Ooh, that sounds interesting. I don't even know what that means, but that sounds interesting. Free community event sponsored by Mayor Kelly Burke. Bring your own yoga mat. That is your word on the street. Let's wrap it up back at the EP Fire Department right now with Captain Ed Dunne.
It has been a really interesting time here at Evergreen Park Fire Department with Captain Ed Dunne, and we move on to the last station here. 4 different courses being offered by EPFD through school districts and also through the village website. 2 of them already up. The last one we just talked about is going to be here in September, October sometime, and then we have a new one that is, to me, I think we saved it for last because it may be the most interesting thing to show on camera if you're watching on the YouTube page, but even if you're listening on any podcast player, it's going to be very, very interesting. Tell me about this class.
This is called Stop the Bleed. It's dealing with people that have major bleeds that could end up bleeding out and passing away. So we want to get people trained so that they can apply tourniquets, can fill up the wounds with the gauze so that they can stop that bleeding so that person has a chance of surviving.
We've talked a lot about the movies and what they show, and some of the things that I've learned, and if I'm wrong, please correct me. Sometimes in the movies, somebody gets shot one time, they just die. Okay, unless it's a perfect shot or in a specific area, you can save a person if you know what you're going to do, if you have a mass casualty event. But also, we're talking about something happens where a knife slips and hits the wrong artery in somebody's arm or something like that. And so it's not over like the movies sometimes depict it's over for that person. And is that probably going to be one of the focuses? Like some of these wounds on the table, and I'll try to turn this a little bit for the camera so you can see it. These are some pretty large areas that are open on a body. And you're saying if you do this right, you could save this person.
Absolutely. And that's the reason why the class was put together, is because we were losing people that potentially had a chance of living. If these techniques were used on them, it could have probably changed the course of the event.
So what's the first thing that somebody wants to do? I mean, like, I'm looking at the holes in these things, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I hope nothing like this ever happens to me or a loved one, because they look, even though it's just a tube, this is just like a plastic tube, this isn't even like a fake body or something like that. I'm like, oh my goodness, that looks horrible. I feel bad for the tube. What would be the first thing? I mean, maybe you need to pick the type of wound too as you give this, but what's the first thing that you want somebody to do when they run into something like this?
We want them to be aware of the events and when and how to use tourniquets, when and how to use packing techniques, because there are certain times when you have to use a tourniquet, certain times when you don't use a tourniquet. Some packing can be done, some packing can't. So we tell you to differentiate between when you can do it and when you can't do it, depending on the type of injuries and where it's located on the body. We go through the different body sections as to what techniques we can use if there is severe bleeding, what you can use and what you can't use. It's not a blood and gory class. We don't do that because we don't want to frighten people, scare them. So it's very dummy down, so that it's minor bleeding that you'll see. It's not the glory, horror type stuff that you'll see.
No, not at all. Although I know a few people that like to do big Halloween displays, and they would like to talk to you about where you got your stuff from. We talked a few times about what people see on the screen and what actually happens. I remember that for a long time I thought a tourniquet meant they were going to lose the limb. Like, well, we're going to save the leg, we're going to save the person, but after I tie off their leg, that's it. They're going to have to lop that off. That isn't the case, right? The tourniquet is really to stop blood from being lost, because that limb, you can kind of cut it down, but the rest of the body now is not losing blood, and it's able to keep going while you're waiting for emergency personnel.
Yeah, that is correct. There was a lot of myths that we have to debunk when we do this class. The military has given us a lot of these techniques to use, because obviously being in the battlefield, they need to have this stuff available. So that's where a lot of our knowledge comes from, and how to use these different tourniquets that are out there.
Is there an aspect in the training class, not only for this one, but for all of them, where you talk about taking a breath? Like, I know that that's something that I always had to feel like I had to do in the most intense situations when I was working as a first responder. I'm sure your guys know how to do that. You know how to do that. The idea of this has happened. There's not much I can do about what happened up until this point, but my panic is going to ruin the chances of the victim or the person that's injured or whatever. Like, you have to take a breath and say, I got to work through this step by step. And is that really the benefit of the training? Yeah,
absolutely. Especially with the CPR, because if a baby's not breathing and heart's not beating, parents aren't going to be cool, calm, and collected. They're going to be chaotic situations. So I tell the students to focus on your training. Focus on what you need to do to help that child. So if you're focusing, you're not thinking of other things that are going around. Be aware of your surroundings, but focus on what you need to do. Same thing with this. Blood can go anywhere, and it will, but it doesn't mean necessarily that it means the end of the life. We can do our techniques that we're going to show you how to do it, and you'll end up saving their life.
And then one of the things that you also want to do is teach assessing the situation, right? I mean, you just brought up parents panicking, right? One of the more common calls, I'll give people this on 911, is a parent calls up and yells that their child is choking. And the child is crying. And one of the first things I had to realize was, well, if they're making noise, they are getting air in some way, so let's all just take a moment and figure and work through the problem. But sometimes the people on the scene, they may be telling you something different from what's actually going on. So it's important not only for your first responders, but for somebody who is trained in this class to know what to look for. How much time will go into just looking at something and saying, I need to identify what the actual problem is?
That goes into a lot, because you identify the situation, you can get the resources that are available, get them coming in if you need more, and then what equipment that you need to get it to make that problem a lot better.
Are there things that people in this class will say afterwards, my first aid kit is not complete. I need to go out and get more of something. I mean, because I see the stuff that you have on this table here, and I go, I don't have all that. So, I mean, is that something where, like, they're going to come out of this class saying, okay, in reality, it's got to be more than that tiny little plastic box from CVS?
The class is going to cost $50.
Okay.
So if you register for the class, it's going to be $50. Then we're also going to have a small personalized kit that's going to be $50 that you can buy at the class. So you'll have the equipment that we have here, you have a smaller version of it, amount of it, so that you can keep it with you. So in case of an event, you'll have your equipment available to you.
Okay, when does this guy start up, this class?
September, October.
September, October? Mm-hmm. Okay, I would imagine this is going to be one of the more popular ones, to be honest with you.
I hope so, because again, we're saving somebody's life that normally that they would just bleed out, and that would really be sad to see. Because it's easy to use, it's not that hard, so we practice on using both of the techniques, but they have to be used properly.
And then before you say to yourself, I don't know if I'll ever be in a situation where somebody's going to be bleeding that much where I need to take care of it. I was at a hockey game one time, watched the kid's wrist get run right over by the skate, and luckily there was one person there who knew exactly how to handle that for that kid and get that kid off the ice, but really stopped it right away before an ambulance could get there or anything else like that. You never know when you're going to need something like this, and I think this is an amazing program that you're going with, and I'm going to let you take. You probably came up with this, right? Like this comes from the mind of Captain Dunne.
Yeah, no. Well, I wish I could take credit for it, but no. It was the neurosurgeons that put this class together, trauma surgeons. So we're so glad that they did, and it's very useful. Again, it's simple cutting and using a knife, using a saw, and you hurt yourself. These techniques can save your life.
Amazing. Captain Ed Dunne, Evergreen Park Fire Department. Thanks so much today.
You're welcome. Thank you.
It's the EP Podcast. All things Evergreen Park. It's the EP Podcast. Evergreen Park.